Hey, yo, you losers still here? Well, so am I. Howdy ho, folks. Your boy decided to return back to this abandoned nest to see which one of you lazy neats didn't flap their wings, eat grass, lay some eggs, and move on with their lives. And clearly, I haven't either. And to any of the cool kids still lingering on this, now what I would consider a dead channel that's just as useful as an Amish electrician, I thought making this would show a clear sign stating that, hey, I'm still alive, marginally. And to be transparent, I got nothing else better to do. I will admit, I kind of do miss doing this. Reading the Reddit posts and voices that I would horrendously pull off was actually kind of fun. But unfortunately, Reddit is no longer in favor of the algorithms, or well, me in particular. And the subreddits were starting to get a bit repetitive after doing 3 and 4 of the same ones, and I wasn't really too sure on what else to post, so here we are. And on top of that, for somebody who is trying to get into Hollywood and chase their dreams in the film industry, reading these Reddit posts was like reading dialogue straight from a script, and if that alone sold very well, I could hardly imagine what writing your own could lead to. But to do social media instead of movies. Yeah, it's not my thing or legacy. It's best to create your own industry instead of falling into a pre-existing one. That is, if you're lucky enough like Matt Stone and Trey Parker. But anyways, I thought this would have been nice to make. Even if it gets no views, it'd be nice to show a pulse. A dying one. So the plan was this. Summer 2025, I go to Germany to visit my mother's family, and Turkey to visit my father's, and decided to make a little travel vlog on my stay there. Document on what I'm doing in those parts and what life is like. A little documentary, if you will, alright? Not everything's gonna be all laughs and goofs. And what's a better way to start documenting our learnings than to start packing and cleaning our things before they get musty for the next 2 months?
Me acuerdo de ti, aquella noche triste cuando yo te perdí. Cuando baja el sol, me acuerdo de ti, aquella noche triste cuando yo te perdí.
As I arrived in Germany at my mom's hometown, my first stop was at my uncle's, because I had a very special someone who missed me dearly. Unfortunately for my buddy here, I was going to be in Germany for 5 days before I departed out to Turkey into the countryside. So in the meanwhile, I walked with Bud, tried to see what I could do in Turkey, while Bud watched, of course. Cook dinner and see what my uncle may have wanted to drink after dinner. Either tea, although I'm not really a tea person, or whiskey, straight from your boy, Kaiser Franz Josef. We chose the latter. Whiskey was alright. 5 days have passed and repacking my stuff, and now I'm being deployed. Transported to the airport by my cousin's superb driving skills. The best part? I got the whole row of seats all to myself. So, 4 hours have passed and I finally arrived at the Elazığ airport, and in case you're wondering, no, American citizens do not need visas anymore to gain entry into Turkey if you're staying for less than 90 days. The region that I'm in is in the eastern side of Turkey, where the nearest cities would be Erzurum, Erzincan, Diyarbakir, and Malatya. Erzurum being a bit significant in my book since the lead singer of Rammstein, Till Lindemann, took a DNA test and found a lot of relatives in that area. They flew over there to visit, only to end up startling some of the locals nearby and triggering an old fart into thinking that a third world war has started. What? A German invasion? Mind you, I arrived at 3:51 in the morning, so I was jet lagged beyond jet lag, but boy, does this region of Turkey look hella nice at the crack of dawn. After being on the road for about an hour and a half, I finally got to my aunt's apartment in town, and let me tell you, she chose a pretty good spot. Anyways, I'd rather be on my laptop. After napping for about 7 hours to help cut the jet lag for a bit, you can take a wild guess what happened after that. You guessed it, and no, it's not that. It's actually more road. But where is this road leading to? I'll let you in on a little secret. It's my ancestral village. Lay your eyes on something the outside world has no knowledge of, not the cows, because upon arriving, it's isolated with mountains to come. With no civilization for miles on end, electricity going on and off several times a day, barely any television with no internet or radio, perfect for somebody with antisocial tendencies.
Hey everybody! Meg just had her first period!
Settling into my room, I was digging the lighting outside and thought I could start getting some warm-up shots. It's been a while since I've used film. I was gonna head outside of the village area and take a look around and maybe get some more photos over there, but unfortunately, I was nearly mauled by two vicious hungry beasts. I was also going to take photos of the village around nighttime, but the guard at the door told me to stay inside, saying something about wacky creatures lurking about. I tried to get his attention by ringing the bell and give me the key to open the gate, but unfortunately, I think his ass was more interesting. He probably knew that my photos were going to turn out shit anyways.
Kendi bu işlerden anlıyor ya.
Ha.
Tabii canım.
So, village life in Turkey. What's that like? What do you guys do? How do you get by? Well, in essence, it's a village, not different than other countries. The difference is that this one's in the regions of Turkey, so the landscapes, atmosphere, people, culture is going to be different than any other. Here, a pen and a notebook. Take note, I'm going to walk you through it. I was going to be stuck in a village surrounded by stinky tan people like me for 5 days. So I took a stroll into the yard to check the place out. So far, we got fruit trees growing, which was new. Then walking past the trees, I came across some graves and came across my great-grandfather's. Last time I saw his grave, the condition was fine. This year, it was broken down. I don't think we're going to be repairing it. Growing up in the villages of Turkey, you're always told to be very wary of snakes. One bite, you're dead. And the nearest hospital for me and the location that I was at was nearly 2 hours away. And how fortunate for me, because a bunch of crows started to sound the alarm for a snake potentially spotted. Did I run away? Nah. Did I willingly go to it? Hesitantly. Gördün mü?
Buradan göremeyiz de. Orada kesin yılan. Kapalı oraya.
Hiç yok mu?
O varsa çalıların içindedir. Buradan gözükmez o. Açık değil. Açık olsaydı bakardık oraya. Ama kesin bunlar kargalar ötüyor ya mesela. Çok öttüğü zaman kesin orada yılan var. Yılanı görüyorlar, onu ötüyorlar.
Vallahi.
Vallahi. Ben geçen sene orada oturuyoruz. Ben de hamakta sallanıyorum. Tamam.
Tamam.
Kargalar kok kok kok kok kok kok. Dedim ki yılan var. Bir gittim. Kargaların hepsi uçtu. Baktım şşş diye ses. Taşların arasına girmiş bu kadar kalınlıkta.
Gerçekten
Vallahi ve döndü. Sopayı dürttüm ve tel örgü var. Sopayı dürttüm. Deyince elimi soktum ama yetişmiyor. Elimi soksam tutacağım yılanını. Yakalayamadım. Ya.
Korkunçmuş ya ama.
Ben korkmam, ben yılanla yakalarım ben.
Ama hastaneler şey çok uzak.
Hastanede ne işimiz var?
Belki
Isırırsa.
ya.
Evet be. Bak dur bakayım. Oo şarjım da bitiyor.
He's showing me a video of a snake that he caught and like put into like one of those like 5-gallon water jugs, and the thing obviously looked very agitated by the looks of it. He then tells me that he went back out to throw the snake back out into the environment. But surprisingly, it was not very hostile towards him, which doing this for years was a first. Buldun mu?
Bak bu. Ben bunu yakaladım elle. Oynadım. Sonra şişenin içine koydum.
Gerçekten mi?
Öldürmedim ama. Ya.
Ne yaptın onunla?
Sonra götürdüm ormana saldım.
Ormanda mı?
He.
Yani o dağlar mı?
Bu burada değil. İstanbul'da yakaladım bunu.
Bu İstanbul'dan.
İstanbul'da tabii bak. Ya.
Korkunç bir şey ya.
Şimdi ben oraya bakacağım şimdi.
Geleyim mi?
Yok.
Eyvallah, gelmeyin o zaman. Buldun mu? Yok mu? Şu olmaz. Gene bularsın. Belki gene de çıkar.
O ilk kargalar ötüyordu ya.
Ya?
O zaman gördüler onu. Orada durmadı. Gitti o.
Gitti mi?
Kesin vardı yani. Ben biliyorum ya.
Demek ki korkudan kaçtı o.
Yok kuşlar ötüyordu. Bir tane yakalasam şöyle.
Evet, döveceksin mi?
Yakalayacağım, oynayacağım onunla.
Unfortunately, we couldn't find the snake. Must have sent some Turk roaches coming. But we did explore more around the yard to see what else may have changed. O ne? Lut mu? Üstünde böcekler yok mu?
Yok böcek yok bunda. Bak at ağzına. Fıstık gibi. Güzel mi?
Güzel.
Var oğlum al.
Yok sen ye.
Eğer şansımız varsa bir tane yılan görürüz.
Belki buluruz. Ama tahmin etmiyorum. I think I was in part of the yard where fecal matter was organically deposited onto the grounds in a more traditional sense. I didn't ask because of how weird that would have sounded if I did, so I'm gonna pretend I didn't see any of that.
Why is the toilet lid hanging off of the tree? Are you conducting some form of a ritual?
Is this your subtle way of preventing yourself from yodeling in the Grand Canyon? 100%. O ne? Çöp mü?
Garbage. Bak o yılanı geçen sene burada görmüştüm yoksa.
Burada.
Tam burada. Tam burada.
Anyways, we temporarily left the premises to encounter a small pool filled with every neurodivergent's favorite fixation. Frogs. These bad boys were peacefully getting some sun until we showed up.
Bak gördün mü 2 tane yan yana. Bak.
Abi çok küçük ama.
Olsun. Bak burada var, burada. Kendi var, önde var. Bak görüyor musun yeşil? Bak yeşil. Bak burada var. Bak 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Dolu.
Hop.
Topladı.
Çek şunu.
Çekiyorum. Hepsi çekiyorum.
Bak bunu da çek.
Güzel. Bu yeni mi yapıldı?
Bu havuz?
Ya.
Eski.
Eski mi? Kaç tane?
Yine bir 10 senesi var.
10 senesi var. Evet. Güzel ama.
Eski havuz vardı. O yıkıldı. Bu yeni yapıldı.
Ha,
Beton.
abi güzel ama.
Biz her sene temizliyorduk burayı geldiğimizde. Suyu boşaltıyorduk. İçini tertemiz yapıyorduk. Su geliyor bak. Bu yosunlar da kendi kendine oluyor. Bak bunlar hiç kımıldamıyor. Görüyor musun?
Onlar korkmuyorlar.
Bak bu da. Bak bu yeşil. O kahverengi.
I saw a square looking spot up ahead and went to go see what it had contained. It was just nothing but garbage. Until the village's fairy godfather decided to come around and throw his words of enlightenment while riding on his companion.
Bak beni bindirmedi kendi biniyor ha bak hele.
Dağların aslanı.
Diyor ki ben onu kepçeyle gömeceğim.
Tabii.
Bak beni bindirmedi kendi biniyor ha.
Hadi bakayım
Ben bunu
kadife.
yazdım ama bir kenara ha.
Kadife. Bunu götürürüm. İstanbul'a götür orada turistleri bindir para al.
Turistleri bindireyim. Tamam sen getir buraya dönüşte bırak onu buraya.
Because of his prodigious idea, he got mad that he couldn't think of it first and emanated his anger out in the most predictable way possible. The village's fairy godfather sensed a disturbance in the pool of frogs and came back with more words of enlightenment for us two retired men.
Çalış abi. Biraz çalış. Biraz çalış.
Çalışıyorum.
Seni getirmem buraya sen burada kurbağa buraya. Mustafa. Çalış.
Ben emekli adamım tamam.
Ben de emekliyim çalışıyorum.
Ben emekliyim. Ben keyif yapıyorum. Ben keyif adamıyım.
Ben de keyif alayım.
After feeling touched and motivated by his charismatic words, I checked the time and nearly had a heart attack because I was late for a scheduled photo shoot with some of the clients out in the village. Thankfully, they didn't seem annoyed or impatient at all. Buraya geçeyim o zaman. While the intense 3-hour photo shoot consisted of requiring the subjects to stand still and move in other spots, with resulting only 2 decent photos taken, I decided to rest take in the environment, and get a feel for the place for a bit.
Sen uyuyor musun?
We were gonna have dinner in the yard around nighttime, and my assigned task was to fetch water. As night was falling, my aunt had one more assigned task for me to adventure onto, and that was to water the plants. Because they're starting to look like the dehydrated cucumbers under a certain someone's bed. After a long, tense day of working in the fields, plowing, squirting, digging, in that Turkish weather, you will get all hot, steamy, gross, and sweaty, and it's clear that certain people just don't seem to catch on. You gotta take a shower, bro. I know, it sucks. There's no subreddit to look forward to moderating out in the wilds after a hard day's work. And it's gonna suck for the people around you even more because hot water straight from the source isn't always reliable out there, and some people just don't like to bathe the old-fashioned way. I didn't get this on video, but I shrieked like a bitch. Halfway through my shower, I spotted an intruder in my supposed alone time. A centipede nested up in there in case you can't see. It was jamming its head back and forth out a lot, so I don't know if it was enjoying the show that I was giving to it or if it was doing more than just a double take.
Its pee-pee is unfathomably small.
The next day, I went to take a walk around the village area with somebody I became acquainted with quickly. Not the cows. This guy's into photography like me, but claims to be an amateur. So I asked if I could see his photos. There's a reason why I'm not going to be showing his photos, simply because he actually is better than I. We're taking a walk up the hill and came across the village zoo, as I say that in quotations. Saw all the barn animals and even made an attempt to lure a baby goat in just to pet and play with it.
Edelim mi?
Hiçbir şey yapmaz.
Yapmasın o zaman.
İndir. Yaprak olsa kaldırmasını veririz yani.
This goat was a lot smarter than we thought it was, therefore we went our way to interact with the other barn animals until a buddy from behind decided to bot us.
Kesin korkuyor o.
Don't know if it's yelling for attention or if it was just simply warning us to stay away from the other barn animals, because clearly none of them wanted to do anything with us.
Çekiniyorlar biraz.
Now, even though we couldn't pet the animals, my newly acquainted friend managed to find one baby goat that was willing to be pet, until he asked me if I wanted to hold it. Felt, man. Felt. Anyways, quickly snap a photo and send it off to my parents. I'm sure they'd be hella proud that I'm touching more than grass. We kept walking some more, looking around our surroundings so I can get well adjusted and familiar with the village some more.
buradan şimdi basayım.
Burada mı?
Buradan böyle.
Güzel. Bayağı yol geldik
Şu-
ama.
Keçiler o evin oradaydı.
Orada mı?
He,
Tam
şu-
orada.
He, şu karşıda bir lamba yanıyor ya.
Ya. Gördüm. Bayağı geldik ya.
Geç batacak.
Batsın.
Çekmek istiyorsan çek burada.
İyi çekelim.
The sunset looked incredibly nice over the horizon out in the mountains.
Çektik.
Gel buraya.
I couldn't resist and went ahead to take a photo. Decided to wrap it up from there and head back home and take the short route. On the way back, we were discussing camera lenses.
Kuşları çekmek için mesela bir tane zoom yapan bir tane makine olacak.
Doğru.
Yani zoom olmazsa şey yapamazsın yani çekemezsin kuşların.
Doğru.
Çok lazım.
O biraz zor olacak.
Zoom olacak biliyor musun?
Ya.
Zoom'lu bir makine olacak.
But for how absorbed we were into the topic, we forgot about the risks for taking the undesignated route, because the village elderlies always tell us little rascals to never take the short route, as you may run into something very regrettable, like spiders. Before heading back home, I thought I could take a quick drink from the water fountain that my forefathers built. Fresh, clean water coming straight from the mountains. I think it's from the mountains. Day after that, later on in the evening, we went on another hike to someone else's yard higher up in the mountains to pluck some apples. I was hella surprised when I came across this tree because right off the bat, I can tell this tree looked up to me as a role model. Mangled, destroyed, and broken. Initially, from a distance, I thought it was lightning because there was a storm the night before, and there was also an active storm going on just over the mountains. But upon observing a much closer look, the tree was not roasted from Zeus's anger, as we discovered bear claw scratches. Anyways, I took my sweet precious time within the vicinity and took some more photos, whereas the rest quickly ran off. If that tree mimicked me and got smacked from a bear, I think I'm gonna take that as a sign that I need to make a change for myself. The following day, my aunt proposed an idea to help clean certain graves from another site around the village area. So my aunt, Bud, and I all went until we ran into one of the locals. Unfortunately, the village idiot must have done something horrendously offensive as they were tied up, and my bleeding heart wanted to give him a hug. But apparently he pulled away. It's whatever. I've only known and received conditional love from others my whole life. Once I burn myself out, I get discarded and left out in the dirt.
Şey saman yapacak onu.
Güzel.
So that pretty much sums up the village life out in Turkey. It's not really that different than other villages in different countries, other than this one being Turkish. So, packing it up, we head back into town to see what else could be on the agenda. But first, my aunt wanted to stop by at somebody else's village because there were some friends of hers that she wanted me to meet. Getting to the village, I became enthralled by the environment and atmosphere, and it was very picturesque. If I had painting equipment, I would have painted this instead of taking a photo, but hey, I can't paint like Bob Ross, so I take film photos instead. My aunt thought it would have been a better idea to go deeper into the village and walk towards the end. By the way, whoever has that house at the end of the village, you won the lottery in terms of scenery. In terms of taking into the scenery, here is a drawing of what went down. I swished my brain into a sponge, absorbing the scenery of this giant backdrop. The valley, farting wind into my face, feeling therapeutic. Locations like these are not easily found in crowded places like New York, Germany, or your mom's attic. Even if you manage to find a decent spot to observe the atmosphere, the wind blowing into your face is either going to smell like gas, sausages, or sweat. It was a very nice change. My aunt decided to invite someone along with us since we had plans to go to the river. She tells me that supposedly this person has an aunt-like role in my life. Kin, we could say. Before we got to the river, she wanted to stop by in town and show me these new events that started to occur the last time that she attended and walk me through competitive rafting.
Bugün de son gün. Yani akşam burada oturup insanlar izliyor bunları.
Orada mı oturuyorlar?
Ha? Burada yani buradan oturup izliyor.
Güzel.
Şurası da yine bir otel pansiyon burası. Bak yarışçılar orada da var.
Orada mı kalıyorlar?
Evet orada. Kimisi orada kalıyor ama orası çok az tabii. Hepsini karşılaması mümkün değil. Her taraf dolu durumda zaten otellerin hepsi. Yarışçıların hepsi orada kalıyor. Onlara tahsis etmişler ama yetmediği için kimisini de yurtlar kurumuna götürdüler.
Güzel. Her sene burada mı yapıyorlar?
Her sene değil. Yani 2, 3, 4 senede bir yapılıyor. Evet. Her sene yerel, il bazında. Bu seneki Türkiye genelinde, Türkiye yarışları. 4 sene önce de dünya yarışı. Çinliler kazanmıştı galiba. Çin, Kanada almıştı. Birinci Çin'de, ikinci Kanada'ydı galiba. O zaman da çok kalabalık. Dünyanın dört bir tarafından işte yarışçılar gelmişti yani. Çok güzeldi o zaman.
Harika bir şey ya.
Evet çok güzel. Su bakma aslında daha hızlı, daha hırçın, daha sert akar da hava sıcaklığından dolayı biraz kurak, kurumuş, çekmiş su kendisini.
Ha, belli.
Hı-hı. Böyle. Gezeriz daha.
Her plan with me at the river was to go fishing, and I've never fished before, so I was open to trying new things. As she was setting up her fishing pole, it seems like she had forgotten an extra bait or something to help effectively lure the fish in. So we improvised by taking a piece of wood, tied string around it, and took some loincloth from a special someone to put food in it to help give off a scent to lure the fish in.
Alacak mısın salatayı?
Sanki bir şeyden kaldı mı yoksa gitmiyor? Now, I'm no Einstein in the stuff, alright? But the one method that she told me that would really effectively lure the fish in was fingering the fish. Fish fingering? She said something about my long, skinny fingers providing some form of carnal pleasure. That is, if I'm doing it right to catch their attention. So if I keep at it, I guess we'll see that one day. We spent the whole day trying to find fish, and we couldn't seem to find any. Despite that, she claims that she found fish easily last time. I guess it's the curse of a Turk roach's presence in the environment where everything flees once you're seen.
Why do you have to be so mean to yourself and berate yourself to that level? The internet considers everybody a cockroach, so don't sweat it.
I am gonna sweat it, alright? Have you not seen Terraformars? Shit explains Turkish lore so eloquently. Saturday, August 2nd. We head to a place called CO.AG, and this place's environment was looking straight out of a Witcher 3. Those mountains should be filmed on a medium format sensor because it is an understatement on how big they really look in person that my phone couldn't capture the lifelike effect. It was like looking at the waves in Interstellar. The buildings were run down. There is a restaurant with benches and the river to cool your legs down, but the scenery overall seems to be pretty nice. If you're going through a rough patch, finding it difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel, they say that loneliness can be like a lonely river, senselessly streaming in a direction it does not know where it will end up. Until it realizes that on the other end it will be a sunset at some point. Well, this sunset turned out to be a nightmare for me because there were people on its end with wannabe influencers posing for their Instagrams or Facebook or whatever it is that people use nowadays. What the fuck is this, my guy? It was time for me to make the biggest step in CO.AG history, climbing to the top of the mountain as best as I can. Kept getting nicer the more I went up. And we keep going. The thing about Turkish nature is that the plants have thorns, and it's advised to wear pants so that the thorns don't stick to you and cause irritation. And in that extreme heat, I refuse to wear pants.
Snakes here. Okay. I think there's snakes here. Whew.
$5, I find a fucking bear up here.
Oh, geez, I got a boo-boo over here. It's okay, we don't have a first aid kit for whatever reason.
This fucking rock better not fucking fall. Oh, that's... Why the can I go up here? Am I gonna get fucking yelled at for going up too high? Probably. I'm getting near to the top though. To end the day, my aunt wanted to stop by at another person's house. Perfect photography spot because these guys live on a hill. All of the acquaintances, kins, and friends I made along the way made my trip in the province very memorable, and I am looking to come back soon. Maybe go rafting, swimming, or something new out of the ordinary. Live life a little, you know? My aunt got roughly 2 weeks off from work, so that we can travel farther into the country. I wasn't really expecting that. Which was spontaneous and a nice surprise. You know, take a vacation and sightsee some locations. So our first stop on the list was to travel up north to the Black Sea, Trabzon. Trabzon definitely has an Istanbul feel to it. So after crashing for a night in the city, we left first thing in the morning to our first stop, Ataturk's Pavilion. Originally, this wasn't his pavilion. It belonged to a Greek pontiff going by the name Konstantinos Kapagianan, who ran a successful bank within the area. But because of the forced population exchange between Turkey and Greece, it was forced to be given up, along with their lives in Trabzon, and moved back to Greece. But because the house was highly valued and just didn't want to be given to anyone, it was gifted to Ataturk to be well maintained and trusted. In 1937, Ataturk actually gifted the pavilion to the nation. And a matter of fact, he listed all of his properties and sent it to the prime minister at the time. He stated that the wealth of a man should be in his spiritual personality. Property gives a heavy burden on me. By granting these to my nation, I feel happy. After Ataturk's death, the pavilion was purchased by Makbule Boysan in 1942, which was opened as a museum later that year. FYI, this pavilion is 130 years old. After our visit to the pavilion ended, we headed over to our next stop, which was the Sumela Monastery. Quick little history lesson. The monastery, originally, was a Greek Orthodox monastery, which was believed to be founded in 386 AD, and it was founded by your two favorite boys, Barnabas and Sophronius. But because of its long history, the monastery was fallen into ruins, which then was repaired through various daddy emperors. And that's when in the 13th century, it's finally reached its final form to what we see now. Alas, we finally see the monastery, radiating its glory through walls that can never speak its observations and truths through the generations residing there. And you gotta wait a little hour in line to grab a ticket to enter. The monastery was full of visitors and tourists, varying from local to national to international as well, but it was very packed and crowded, making it very difficult to maneuver through, especially if you have a lot of equipment on you. The moving pictures with sound on the flat box states that the history of the building across from here explains a rock church with drawings, etchings, and paintings of Christianity, going into full detail of Christ and the Virgin Mary. And all of that concludes our visit at the monastery, and I called dibs on the front seat of the van, simply because I want to see the monastery on the way back. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give the van ride 1 star on Yelp. Why? Well, it was not a peaceful ride on the way back, because I was fighting a Karen trying to claim the seat that I was in. Fuck off? As our stay in Trabzon has come to an end, our next stop was Ordu, which was just a regular, small city, like any other. The only thing there was to do was to take a cable car to the top and see the city from above. That's it. That's all there was. There wasn't anything special up there. And mind you, these cars don't stop when entering or exiting them, so if you're a little derpy with your legs, slow, or simple-minded, good luck. At some point around the top, there was a little area when the platform simply just declines down. There's no railing or any form of support or warnings stating that towards the edge of the platform, it just steeps down. So if you slip, I mean, it's just downhill from there. After Ordu, I had to pass through the back rooms via liminal spaces, praying that I don't get trapped by some form of a witch's curse. We then went to the Balika Magarasi out in Tokat. This Goon Cave feels like it's seen better days. It was just a cave like any other. I mean, nothing too special other than the bat saloon. Just bats deciding on when to reside in that part of the cave whenever they feel like it. I'm gonna leave that cave and its depressionness as I head to my next place of stay. Not a private brothel, but rather a person's place to stay at. A house in the middle of nowhere. Guided by yours truly, who knows the way with no road. My aunt says that I've met the land and homeowners long before, but that's when I was like in middle school. I don't really have any recollection of that. Fortunately, I did get a room all to myself. A wooden room with a wooden bed frame with only a white blanket and purple bed sheets to stand out in contrast with the entirety of the room. After breakfast, the ladies decided to go ahead back into the village, and the homeowner and I were last. Because I was caught up on how he built this house by hand, and what he utilizes his land for in case one day I hit the wall and impulsively decide to live off the grid. Now before I started to walk the path alone into the village, I get a sudden phone call from my aunt. And guess what the predictable question was?
Can you get him to bring his, get his tractor to come and pick us up now? We kind of got tired along the way.
Yeah, I just gotta run back to the house just enough for him to see me and wave the signal to bring the tractor. That is if he's around and within the vicinity.
Everything's okay?
All good, all good. No problem. Okay. We weeped our goodbyes and arrived on the next stop on the list, Hacı Bektaş. Apparently my aunt told me that this is a holy place for me. We stopped by his museum at night to take a look around since we were going to be there in the morning. And another quick history note. Hacı Bektaş is a spiritual mystic. A spiritual legacy, as some may say. He was one of the greatest philosophers of the 13th century that Anatolia has ever seen. Intermingling with social equality and human rights, the three golden pillars that he states is love, reigning supreme throughout the cosmic expanse, kind of like we see in the fifth or fourth dimension in Interstellar, which would also explain the string theory. Compassion, which breathes life into human existence, and unity and equality, which embraces all souls blind to race and faith. Because of this, there are 3 courtyards at the museum. There is an archaeology museum within the vicinity, and it contains, you know, artifacts from the Chalcolithic era to the Iron Age. What struck my attention at the museum were these watering cans. But they weren't just any watering cans that you would find at the dollar store. These were ancient Greek watering cans, inspired by a Greek god, Priapus. And what's the whole fuss about Priapus? Let's take a look. In Greek mythology, the god of vineyards and orchids was also known as the god of fertility. Priapus, son of Dionysus and Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, symbolized the fertility of the earth, as well as being the god of pasture and seas protecting livestock, bees, and fishermen. Priapus cult worship spread throughout the islands, Greece, and South Italy. In the Roman period, Priapus symbolized virility and physical love. Ah yes, very symbolic. Can you take a wild guess where the inspiration of these water cans took from Priapus? You guessed it. Super detailed wieners. So detailed, I don't think I can show it raw on YouTube. It would probably make a lot of sense why I made a lot of wiener jokes in middle and high school. Actually, you know what? It'll probably make a lot more sense where Till gets his shtick from. There was a water fountain in the center with coins tossed in them. And I had 5 coins on me. I missed on the first try, but I got all remaining 4 in the middle. And because I couldn't get all 5 coins in, Haji evicted me for that. So we head to our next place in the agenda. Cappadocia. And these stone houses was something. You can take a tour and see these buildings for yourself, but the path is a bit difficult, especially if you don't know how to fall. So be wary and be cautious. I don't want to put this on blast, but I think I found the secret headquarters of the subreddit, r/shit from a butt. The stench was quite rancid. Momentarily, I chose to be a daredevil and risk it by traveling out of bounds. Because, I couldn't really find the safest route to take. Most of the ground is basically just dry dirt or sand, so you don't really have a good grip when de-escalating down the hill. Ah, fuck. Alas, I finally made it through the treacherous path that only the chosen can pass through, and there was a easy way through given with the family emerging from the distance. Wandering around, I got to see what old life was like out in Cappadocia. And it was very interesting to say the least. My adventures scouring around an old civilization came to a halt when I heard my aunt screaming my name out in the distance, so I didn't really have time to check the place out entirely. Last pile of letters to scribble out on the list was the Ainola Church. Now, this church is a bit spooky, as it's a church embedded into rock, so not a lot of light gets inside, much like my man cave here. There is an entry fee at the church, and a guy gives you a flashlight to check the place out. Unfortunately, my light was either low on battery or the bulb was going out. Kind of made the experience a bit more sinister. Crawling into the corridor was a bit of a challenge because, you know, I'm carrying a bag, a tripod, you know, a medium-sized camera. So crouching on your knees in a tight space like that did make it a bit cumbersome and difficult to maneuver through. And it kept getting darker and darker the more you delved into it. I had to back out and drop some stuff off to my aunt so that I can get a better look inside.
It's a dead end, okay. Lovely.
Boo! Did I scare you? I know I'm corny. This church didn't really have much other than litter, a cheese wheel door, and some form of ventilation coming from somewhere. Among Us! I was expecting more leading inside, but it was just a small room with not much. Following morning, we head back into town for something super exciting, which was the hot air balloons. Just before boarding the balloons, you are given a breakfast bag containing a croissant, pretzel sticks, peach juice, and a napkin.
Can see some nice that way. My name is Ahmet. Ahmet, yes. And balloon is flight, landing is important. And all of them balloon is flight, you can be relaxed during the flight. Landing time, if when I say landing position, and all together turn back this side please, and there are in front of you red rope, hold the red rope and sit down. Look at me please. Information, that's all. Thank you very much, have a nice flight. Thank you.
As the balloon kept ascending up higher, it got to the point where my aunt started to get a bit uneasy and asked the balloon pilot how high we were at.
Right now 1000 meters, right now 1000 meters.
Which wasn't really much of an issue for me since I'm not really that afraid of heights. I'm like literally edging on the basket, like looking down.
Kaya da inecek zaten.
We get to landing, despite that there were some difficulties for us to land. You complete the balloon tour with a celebration, which consists of champagne at 6:11 in the morning,
Yes, please everyone now. We have a champagne party. Would you like the champagne shower? Are you sure? Yeah. Yes, please, together. Count together. 1, 2, 3.
a certificate signifying that you went on the balloon, and the same van to take you back to your stop. Now, celebrate this through solitude. Y'all like Turkish ice cream?
Dondurmacı. Evet abi buyurun kampanya devam ediyor. Limon ve vişne.
That all concludes my tour and travels around Turkey, with only a few days spared for me before I head back to Germany at my mom's. In the meanwhile, my aunt thought it would have been a nice surprise to show me a film camera that she had tucked away, and after analyzing it, it's very pristine and practically untouched. But some of the shutter speeds were broken, and the mirror would also get locked up too. In the bag, I also found a reusable disposable camera made by America's #1 trustee health insurance, Parliament Lights, which surprisingly had film in it. I found that out the hard way, a split second after slamming the back shut, hoping I didn't ruin anything. I thought I could try the reusable disposable camera out in town center, while also looking for gifts at the underground mall for my mom and sister. There wasn't really much good to find. This is what happens when you neglect unprocessed film for, what, 20 years? And pretty much the entirety of the film gets fogged up by unconventional heat. So, remember to process your film ASAP after you're done taking photos. The flight back to Germany had one stop, and I was stuck at Izmir for 3 hours. Within those 3 hours, I decided to utilize my time productively, spending roughly 2,500 Turkish liras on beer. That is 4 beers. On the flight back, I saw 2 super bright stars and figured I'd take a photo. One of them looks to be Saturn, and after looking it up online, August 15th to the 20th of 2025, that's when the planets are very visible. I ride back in Germany and look to see what else I can do with the given time I have left over there. Now, this ain't a country like Turkey suffering hyperinflation through the roof, so travel is going to be a bit more expensive than traveling in the US. And with prior years of going back and forth to Germany, if I were to describe Germany to others, well, I ain't going to sugarcoat it, it's Germany. Cold, dark, and one hell of an attitude when you ask where the restroom is. As for the country, it's clean, green, disciplined, well ordered, and most towns are copy-paste in Baden-Württemberg. So, what to do. I could eat döner, enjoy the fine billion-euro industry cuisine, maybe some currywurst. I could take a walk up to the hill in my mom's town and see the whole city. I could tag along with my cousin to Frankfurt as she gets her hair done and explore around the city. I could go to the shooting range with my uncle. LARP is Yusuf Dikic. You know, the more I explain it, the more boring Germany really is. But that's okay, because bigger cities tend to have more events going on than smaller ones. So off to Stuttgart I go. After seeing the street performer, I continued down the street to see food and wine stands everywhere. Oktoberfest is nigh, so my mom and I should get ready for that. After pigging out on some wieners, I spotted what appears to be like Heaven's Gate from a distance, and like a moth to a flame, I was reeled into it. The Porsche brand store. After Porsche, I took a walk around the city some more to see what else was going on.
Großen Applaus! Vielen Dank, Leute, dass du heute hier warst. Und bevor es auf der Bühne gleich... Man hört dich nicht. Guck mal, da vorne ist ein Mikrofon direkt neben dir. Das ist nicht an. Wo ist denn die Technik? Warte, ich komm nach vorne. Warte, du bist noch nicht fertig. Da kommt noch was.
My uncle heard that I was in the city and said that if I wanted to, we can go to the Porsche Museum together, and instinctively, that is an offer I am not refusing. It was interesting to see various types of Porsche models made over the years, especially this little piggy ready for butcher. But the one that got my attention the most was Sally from Cars. Apparently she's a 1999 model. As I'm walking around, I ran into a tour group and a guy discussing one of the racing units up ahead for display, so I chimed in.
Is the steering wheel of the car. Yeah, looks like a gamer, right? There's a lot of different settings. Yeah, for example, this is the degree of recuperation. So a driver has the ability to boost electric, and the energy for this comes from the brake. So by braking, you generate energy, and this energy can be used as a boost. Yeah, you can also set your dispersion, your boost, everything. This button right here, the drink button, if the driver pushes this button, he gets water into the helmet. At the back, we have the shifting pedals and the lights to irritate the driver at the front. Right. Yeah, my group can, if you want, you can hold it.
Ooh, very tactile.
Yeah, so nice feedback, right?
Oh, tactile. That one gives me tingles running up and down my third nipple. I actually do have a third nipple. It's actually right here. Yeah, tactile, like film photography. The energetic exchange we give in the physical world has deeper meaning to what we convey through tactile means. And that's why analog has a deeper impact to me than digital. And as much as I wanted to test drive a Porsche, the best we were getting were simulations. Digital. Just ain't the real thing. So after looking around more car models and structures and leaving my name in graffiti font, the day at the museum comes to an end and I leave Porsche with a lanyard, which made me very happy. My uncle wanted to end the week with me by going up to the Stuttgart Needle, or also known as the Fernstadtturm. My German is atrocious. To get an overview of the whole city, and you also get to see which direction every city is in. 2 months away from being the US, and I go back home to being a miserable wage slave trapped in the depths of a corporation ready to dispose you at a moment's notice. What a life, man. I'm gonna end it here and wait until something eventful happens again so that I could adventure like this again. Tune in next time where I'll be crawling in the sewers of Paris looking for the one deceased granted by the title Sodomizer of Flies. You can take a wild guess as to why he was given that title. For now, fuck off.